issues with distribution of food and getting it, you know, just to the street next door. You know, people don't know where to go. And just then, there's a gentleman here who just got back, Kevin Seltzer, who is a urban planner, right? And so he helped us with the transportation team. He knew how to get all the bus routes. So it's been amazing how people just show up kind of as we get to the topics. So, so anyway, it's been rewarding, I think, for everybody involved. But we don't pretend that we got everything done. And so that's what we like to do in this session is talk about any ideas you have. Could it be, could it come from a charity? Is it a charity, something charities could be doing? Is it a policy or an implementation of a program that we wish was either better or we're missing one? Could it come from the for-profit side of the world? You know, could business help to solve the problem as well? And so as you know, we're looking for solutions. And if we do more of the same, could we end hunger? So it's not necessary that we have to be something new, but you know, maybe we should step up our rate of adoption on certain ideas. So everything you've heard, it might be interesting if people, you know, want to talk about what if we scale, what would it take to scale an idea that you heard here. So it becomes a common practice. When I took over the food bank, like I say, I came from the business world, so I didn't really know, as I say, how the U.S. did hunger. And so I had to learn about all the systems and all the processes and how it was all set up. And even how food banks operate with the food pantries that give out food maybe once a month or once a week. That all started, it's interesting, like why do we have this system and why does it work that way? And you know, when they first implemented food stamps, I think it was in the 60s, it didn't, you know, last the whole month. Like, I don't think anything's changed there, but so the churches stepped in and would provide, you know, food for that last week. So that's why and it was a bag of food, you know, canned goods, shelf stable. So that's, you still see that model, you know, a lot of food pantries, even though it's totally changed the food donations. They're all perishable. There's no canned goods hardly donated anymore because everybody has the efficient supply chain, so they don't overstock like they used to, you know, all these other things. So every program was there for a reason, and so you see some of the innovations now. Can those become the standard way we do things? And what would it take to get everybody to, you know, make that part of their programs as well? And then what's the future we like to see? It's always helpful to have a picture of where you're going to help you sort out what you want to work on, you know, in what order. So if we really want to end hunger, what does that look like? Does that look like everybody has access to food? You know, people will always have needs. I don't know if we can guarantee that everybody will have the income they need to buy what they want, but could they find food when they need it? You know, is there a place to go and that everybody knows what to do to get food? Is that our definition? Is it everybody has healthy food? You know, they should have access to food that's good for their health. You know, what is the future that we would like to see as well? Because that helps us pick what are the priorities that we want to work on. So that's my kind of setup for the session. And now it's really a discussion. Anybody who has ideas, throw them out, and we'll work our way to the various ideas. Jane?
Is Lynn still here? This summer, well, we know that the summer break spot that it's very underutilized, but so we've got some programs that are not being utilized that are already being in place and being funded. And it would be good if we can get that boosted up. There were some innovative things this summer, and again, it had to do with cooperation and collective impact. I think Danielle's still here somewhere. But I think, you know, if they can have just a second to talk about some of the things that created the vast increase and the results that we saw, taking a different approach and getting more creative. But I just see us, if we could just identify what's not being used and why, and you know, we could take away so much of the lack of choice people have from going to a pantry.
Yeah, that's a good point. The whole use of government programs, especially for children that are underutilized. So I'm walking up here because I happen to know one of the people that's part of getting that done right now. So between Danielle and Lynn, you did some things.
Danielle, you want to say anything? How do you want to do this? Because I think your impetus to change and some of the the innovative things you're doing. So you speak and I'll follow up. However you want to do it.
Well, part of what we did was to partner. We met with folks. We networked a lot. JWB fortunately had the childhood initiative that we were invited to, and actually we were pleased, and so that led to a lot. We had 20%, almost 20% increase in the breakfast that we took. We had another 30 sites over the summer. I have more to go. Lunches were up, snacks were up, but mostly breakfast and lunch, and we were happy with that. We did a lot of, we did some of the pilots that GWB was working with to, we took our mobile trucks and we went to the Mosley Hotel in St. Pete that houses the homeless, and we had a site there, and others came on board. They did the book exchange. We had other services came to just give information out. So that's kind of snowball from there.
Yeah, so what Lynn is talking about is basically, you've probably heard about, there's a program called Break Spot, which is a summer feeding for kids to get lunch, right?
Yeah.
Or
USDA summer food
right,
service
summer
program.
food. And it's underutilized. About 10, at least in this area, 10 to 12% of students who are qualified get it. So there's been a lot of initiatives to spread it, and I know Pinellas County added like 4 mobile units to just get out there to where the kids are as one strategy. Another strategy is to have more exciting stuff going on where you're feeding so the kids just want to come. That's a couple of things.
And that's what the research shows. It's
right.
the activities that attract the kids. The food keeps them coming back.
Yeah.
But it's the activities.
Right. Because obviously that seems like a layup. It's fully funded. We just need people to have the sites, and then you get refunded by the government program for all your costs. And so it's not something we have to go write a grant for per se. You know, it's right there. So maybe Danielle, you can add to that.
Sure. Let's see if I can project enough of that. So some of you are probably in our childhood hunger sessions, so I don't want to be too repetitive, but basically JWB, we're a funder of services in Pinellas County, a lot like the Children's Board in Hillsborough, and we see ourselves as a backbone organization for collaboration, and one of the big things we're working on now in several areas is collective impact, and so this is one of the things we decided to tackle this year. And we brought people together, and I have to say, a lot of the success is because we have innovative partners. So Lynn was willing to stretch at sometimes the last minute to add a site and do some things and to try some new things. So I think the synergy around bringing people to the table, we have 30 to 50 people that are engaged, all representing different organizations, and then deciding together what we're going to do, what gaps we're going to fill, and then looking around and saying, who here can help with that? So we're not creating a whole new anything. In fact, we're making sure that we're not duplicating what the network, Tampa Network 10 Hunger is doing. We're there at the table working with them, and we're trying to make sure that those that are already doing things, it's an impetus to do more. So in addition to the Pinellas County Schools being innovative and having their mobile sites go out and then setting one up at a motel that you talked about, we also worked with a church and within a community that really needed something, and that was sort of one of our pilot models. So those that weren't at the the presentation, if you want other information, I can share it. I know there's some talk about having a meeting in Hillsborough to talk about some of the ideas. What was beautiful there is it was all volunteer based, so even that church didn't write a grant and have to do a whole lot. The food is provided, and then they had people step up for a couple hours a day to provide enrichment and fun and activities for kids. So I think we're going to try to replicate that at more sites next year and look at some more mobile food ideas. Libraries, other places. Natural places where kids go.
Right, so go ahead, Jane.
I just want to add to that, and we're in the same boat with school breakfast. I know Mary Kate in Hillsborough also does a lot of stuff, but I don't know what percentage of, well, everybody's eligible for school breakfast. Is it universal school breakfast?
Yeah, Pinellas breakfast is no charge to any student.
Right, and only how many people use it?
Well, since we did that, we're in our 5th year now. We do about 24,000. We're
initiatives like that, you know, we talk about getting more people access to SNAP benefits and things like that, which is more of a process. And we do need to do that, but the kids are at the schools. And I think it was Linda was telling me that they did something in front of a group, and a lot of the parents didn't even know that it was available. So
Yes, a lot of times just education, awareness is the first step. And then you get down to transportation and access. And so we found after about 5 years now that not everything, but a lot of things come down to transportation issues and now to healthy eating, the actual consumption. You know, the supply, I know I worked at the food bank and they're even bigger than us there, but there was been a considered effort to get all the farmers donating their produce, and that can't be. So there's a lot more supply out there. It's just, is it really getting to where it needs to get in time, and then are people actually eating it and knowing how to eat it? So those have been focus areas in the last year or two for the network, and you've seen some of the programs today where people have taken on that challenge, where they're tying it to a health situation through the Food is Medicine. There's the different transportation initiatives. So but you know, there's people here that haven't been doing it, certainly students, and I know you have ideas too, so it's kind of like, why don't we all do this? That's what my favorite thing I threw out last year too is in Brazil, they had no welfare system, and then when the one social worker guy that came in, sorry, name before the one was there now, but she came in and he came in and he put in a small welfare for the poor families. But in order to collect it, you have to make sure your kids go to school, and they have to go every 6 months, I think, for a health checkup. So I go, well, that doesn't seem to ask too much, you know, to collect, because I think of all the money we put into education initiatives and health initiatives, but really, you know, the parents that have the responsibility. So, you know, having a system where, yes, you get help, but you need to, you know, do your part too. So things like that where you tie kind of good ideas together. And I know there's a lot of initiatives that way around healthy eating, right, to give people incentive, be it, of course, SNAP can be taken at farmers markets, but people give grants where you get double your money, you know, if you spend your money on produce or things like that that make sense, so that you can funnel the resources to people that are already, you know, in charge to make the decision for themselves. So, does anybody else have any ideas that they want to bring up? Go ahead.
This is something that we talked about in one of our meetings that's coming up for volunteer requirement for people that are on SNAP. They need to be in training programs or volunteering in some way in the community. And I personally think we just need to be talking about and thinking about more how to engage the low-income populations in some of the work that we're doing. Because we have some great assets in these people that are looking for work. They need experience, they need training, and maybe engaging some of the job training people with the hunger community, especially since this is a kind of a policy thing that's being linked to, so I don't know, that's just something that I haven't heard anyone talking about. Solutions, I mean, I've heard that it's a problem that this is coming out, but if it happens, then, you know, it's a problem we should have some answers for.
Does anybody have experience? I know when I first started at the food bank in 2008, that was the policy.
Okay.
Because we had volunteers who come and sort food because they were receiving SNAP, and like we hired 3 of those people, you know, because they come, you know, week after week, and then they would say, can I have that? I can do that job. So it's like, well, the next time it comes up, you know, I'm not going to, you know what I mean? So it did work out to at least give them an idea of maybe some possibilities that you wouldn't even know that there was a job there by getting involved with, you know, different nonprofits or different efforts. So, go ahead.
Well, I build on that. I'd say that there's real opportunities, if you look at it from a marketing perspective. You're trying to appeal to a lot of different groups of people who have different interests. And I think a volunteer opportunity, high school kids have to put in high school hours, and other students need to have a certain number of required hours. Maybe we should focus on energy from that age group, number one, because as they grow older and get involved in things more involved, and you can put it on your resume. That's another thing we're looking at, is how do you get people to look at possibilities for job training and your future. And this is something that if you volunteer working in the community, you can also learn skills and use those on your resume for the future. So that's another selling point. And then for the children and the families, we have so many events that happen in our communities every weekend, over on Curtis Hickson and over in different parks and other things like that. Instead of us having just a little set-up table where people have to come by to see it, if instead we started working with DOH and their new policy on health in all programs and all projects and all policies, then what would happen is, as we're promoting these, we would also be promoting, you know, oh, we've got this kind of great food, or these kinds of food trucks, but the food trucks are food trucks, and getting people excited and interested in that. And also with young people and the apps and the other things, we could come up with some fun, interactive ways that people could get engaged and have competitions in communities. You know, how many people do this or how many people do that, and there's some really good prizes you can give. And a lot of our organizations like the aquarium and the zoo and other places like that would probably get on board and would want to help by giving gifts or doing other things. And the other thing we have here that a lot of people don't take advantage of is our beautiful environment and ecotourism and things like that. When I used to work with a lot of College Hill before it became the more developed group, we used to take the kids on field trips down to the Manatee Viewing Center or to different parks, free parks. They're all over the place here, or take them canoeing or other things. And what we discovered is, and our requirement was the kids had to stay in school and they had to help clean up the neighborhood, they had to have a certain number of volunteer hours, but at the end of the semester, if they had done all those things, then we would take them on these great field trips. And we ended up taking the families because the mothers wanted to bring the siblings and the parents, and it became this big thing that they could do as families. So family picnic kind of opportunities, things to bring everybody together to try to accomplish the same thing. And we marketed a barbecue, a healthy barbecue. So there are opportunities in our community. We just need to sort of put our eggs around collectively.
Thank you. Yes.
I actually do receive SNAP, and through CareerSource, which Caitlin contacted, I was able to volunteer with her and, through networking there, I was able to find a job. So, if your organizations contact CareerSource, you can have a volunteer who's on the program come work with you so that they can get experience to get a job and network and to get, move forward with their lives. Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Susan, I ran the food bank for 4 years. I thought I knew that, but the network is just amazing. All the things that I learned, like the resources that are out there, like you mentioned the Break Spot, but the CareerSource, the one that always amazes me is IFAS. So Nan and Betsy are here. Every time somebody says, I want to do this or I want to create a class, we're like, we have one. It's funded. Can we come to, we need places to have it. So it's like, oh, okay. Or I remember they were starting a health coalition and I went to it. And so I was at a table with other food charities. So I thought it was going to be, other pantries. Well, it was 5 other healthy eating charities. And I was looking at hiring somebody at the food bank to add that to coach our agencies, so they'll know. I was like, I'm not going to add it. These people just need somebody to help them, deliver their already funded programs. So it is amazing that if you, take stock of what we already have invested in our area, just getting people to utilize those programs and be the willing hands to get rid of the barrier of why it's not happening. You can get a lot of success without reinventing the wheel. I was reading about collective impact, as they call it now, right? And they were saying some of the biggest successes they see is that it wasn't a brand new idea. Is somebody in the community was already doing it, but then everybody started adopting it. So the pace, at what you grab and go with. So I'm going to bring up my favorite. I got two favorite topics. One is if you look at the map, there's some areas that are very green, and there's seems like 20 dots on top of each other, in a zip code. And I always think, you think of why people don't use food pantries or get jobs. A lot of times it comes down to babysitting or daycare, during the day, or transportation. So one thing, I know we were talking about, there's a group that's going to work on a couple of zip codes just west of here, but what if we got together and really said, of everybody doing charity in the area, do we all have to do food pantries? Like, if you let your people go to this food pantry, maybe they could do the transportation or the daycare. It's kind of like saying, given we got 1,000 hours of volunteers going on in this zip code, and how much are we doing? Are we kind of replicating something that's fairly easy to do and everybody knows how to do it? Or somebody be willing to go bigger than that and let somebody else specialize, in another area. So that's, I wasn't able to go to Trina's thing on the neighborhood, approach.
Adopt a block.
Adopt a block, because I was wondering if something like that would kind of work, where they kind of reach out to all the charities and say, can we, look at your missions a little bit and see if a gap could be met?
I think that would be excellent because, so much of what Adopt a Block is about is volunteerism. So if groups can, sign up for one of those Saturdays, that works for them, and they can support that neighborhood. At the same time, if there's a similar event happening with another group, we can bring that network to that one, and that's how it's going to work. I think that's how you build social capitalism. That's how you change neighborhoods, okay? And it has to do with a commitment. So I think that's an excellent idea. It's all about collaboration. If you have effective collaboration, you can change neighborhoods.
Yeah. So, because at one time I went to a lady who was feeding people her charity on a Sunday, and she'd been doing it for 5 years. And the time I happened to be there, she said to the gang, she goes, I've been seeing a lot of you, for a while. What I would ask is, can you pay it forward? And it could be you're a car mechanic. So-and-so's car broke down. Can you fix their car for them? And you do haircuts. Could you do a free hair, you know what I mean? And then out of that, you might decide you have a little business because people come back to you. And so it was kind of just the people that were going there for the Sunday feeding program. It's you all have skills. What can you all do to help, each other out? I'm just doing the food portion, of it. So, Mark, did you have something?
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with that with time banks and time sharing.
Yes.
That sounds like something similar.
Marie Nelson is
Right.
runs the time maker today.
Okay. So that was one of my ideas. My other ideas is kind of for-profits meeting that need. Like I say, there's a lot of underserved people, and so what can we do to get the for-profit side to set up a business that would work? So I did, personally, I read about vertical farming. We just had a session on it. And so there's one in town, so I work to support that, partly as an investor, and then just volunteering my talents, of my past, which nobody will pay me for, so I'd have to give them away now. But anyway, but things that, because it's really the point they made in vertical farming is a way to meet the needs in urban settings with a lower footprint. So can this be a way of doing it, or even, where's the woman that did the gardens, school gardens? I was going to ask, could they do a vertical garden if they want instead of outside? Because vertical is indoors.
Space you have. And yeah, absolutely.
Because so that'd be kind of cool because in the summer it'd be a way to engage them through the summer when it's hot, and they go away. But if they had to come to a nice air-conditioned little place to grow food, it might not be all bad.
And your classes, and take them home during the summer, or take the rabbits home from your classroom.
Yeah.
Take up your classes.
So I don't know if anybody sees other for-profit things happen. Obviously, transportation-wise, you've seen the advent of food trucks. You see Uber, people taking what resources they have and trying to turn it into a business model, kind of a crowdsourcing way of doing what I was just talking about. So I was just wondering if anybody has seen any other businesses that, maybe we should figure out or try to promote or help, give them all the information. We have plenty of information, what need, could they meet in our community. Oh, sorry.
Just one thing, a lot of us are in front of many different city councils, different boards, okay? So as the chairman of the board for Tampa Bay Network and working with JWB this summer, I would go in front of the Metropolitan Planning Organization and you get 3 minutes. You can speak for 3 minutes about anything you want to talk about. So I get in there and I talk to them about the kids in Pinellas County. We have 50,000 kids that get this school meals, but in the summer it's only 7,000. We need transportation. And I went in and say, I'd like the PSTA to help us with the transportation. Can we provide free bus passes? What can PSTA do for us? And the chairman of the board said, we're not PSTA. I said, I understand, but thank you for your time. 3 of those members sitting on that MPO are PSTA board members. They're also city council members for St. Pete. So the next meeting we went to with Judith and Caitlin and I were St. Pete City Council and asked them for the same request. So again, to hear the message. So then the last meeting I had that month was in front of the PSTA board. So half of the PSTA board knew who I was because I was asking them at several different meetings. And so what I think one of the things is to get the word out, okay? A lot of us in this room, we have board members, we have a lot of people who are going in front of we're giving presentations for whatever we're doing in our other jobs. What you can do is, whatever you're working on, or whatever the team's working on, get the word out. And again, most of these city council meetings, there's a couple things that's going on here in Hillsborough that I would love to go talk about. I live in Hillsborough County. But what you need is you get that 3 minutes, use it. Use that 3 minutes to get your word out. Bring a friend. Now you got 6 minutes. You got a few more friends. Now you have an audience of usually 12 people that are mayors, city councilmen. They're put in this office by the people in the community they work in, which is our community. So if they start hearing what Tampa Bay Network's working on this with JWB, with the school board, with other folks in the community, they're going to say, maybe we should step up. And that's kind of what happened. PSTA, along with one of the city council members, stepped up and gave 8 bus passes for the summer breaks program. Now we can say it was as a pilot. So what can we do better next year? Also, PSTA stepped up. They put flyers on their buses. They put flyers on all the PSTA buses talking about the summer break spot. We didn't have the big banner like Hillsborough did, but the word got out. And so again, it's working together in the community, and all of us have different partners that we're working with in different communities that we're in front of. Well, what I ask is that talk about what we're doing. Take 3 minutes. If you got time, take your 3 minutes and bring a couple friends, and now you almost have 10 minutes. So again, getting the word out, whatever project you're working on, that's the best way to do it, to change some policies and to have people start thinking and talking about what we're doing.
Leah Barbara Hines is at the lead, but if you've heard about the new funding source in St. Pete, and I apologize for those of you who've already heard about this, but for those of you who are interested, there's a new foundation. It's called Foundation for a Healthy St. Petersburg. You can sign on to the site right now. It's not up fully yet. It will be in a couple of days, and then they're going to go dark, but they're going to have an RFP coming out in early January, and lots of money to give away, and it specifically has to do with all of the different things in the community that contribute toward good and better health in the community. So if you sign up, you'll know when the RFP comes out. They are taking up to 3 letters of interest from any organization to apply for that money. So if you have any ideas, or your organization needs to do it, look at your partners around you and try collaboratively to come up with a way to go after it.
I would also offer that they were really interested in the app that we were looking to develop for the Network to End Hunger in St. Pete. I have a friend who works there, and she saw it on one of our hunger Facebook pages, and she said we really would be interested in doing something like that. So if that's an option for the network to reach out.
All right, we're going to move on and save the best for last as always. So I'd like to introduce Brenda Kessler. She's Assistant Director from the Family Resilience Center in the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. So she's had an interesting path. She's been doing this for 10 years, tackling issues of hunger and security. So Brenda?